All right, hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Monday, September 6th, 2021. This is your evening tropical update. Well, across the basin tonight, we still have our two main players. We have Hurricane Larry remaining a powerful, impressive Category 3 hurricane over the central Atlantic basin. And we're also watching this mess here in the Gulf of Mexico, referred to as Invest 91L. This mass of showers and storms expected to begin to move northward and should cross Florida and move up the east coast of the U.S. through the end of the week, where some development of the storm is possible. So we go and look at the National Hurricane Center's forecast for Larry. No major changes. Definitely not expecting any direct impacts to the eastern U.S. Larry is well offshore and will turn now confidently east of Bermuda. The 5 p.m. advisory has maximum state winds back to 125 miles an hour, top end of Category 3. Then moving to the northwest at 10 miles an hour, and Larry will begin to turn more north and then eventually northeast towards the late end of the week. The hurricane hunters did get out there this afternoon and got around in there and did find, the central pressure and the winds were about as expected. Very strong winds around the center of the storm. What we still have here is what we call a annular hurricane, or pretty close to an annular hurricane. It's not fully annular, but it's pretty close. Very large eye. I mean, absolutely massive eye, about 50-55 nautical miles across, and one thick ring of convection around this eye. Not a lot of spiral banding features like we would see, but it's not also fully annular. The environment Larry's in is still marginal. It's not super warm water. There's some dry air in the vicinity. There's some wind shear still pushing on the storm from the southwest. So it's definitely not in a perfect environment, but despite this, Larry is a large, stable, and still very powerful hurricane this evening. And latest forecasts do bring this up well to the east of Bermuda. Now, exactly how close it gets remains to be seen. Bermuda here at 65 west, and the hurricane models do keep this pretty uniformly to the east. The question is how close this actually gets for direct impacts, because Larry is still a very large storm. Tropical storm force winds extending like 160 or so miles, I believe, and hurricane force winds also extending a pretty good ways. I believe the Hurricane Center had it in their discussion. Here we go. Hurricane force winds up to 60 nautical miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds 160 miles. So even though Larry is not going to directly hit Bermuda, even a close call could definitely bring some pretty unfavorable conditions over Bermuda. So we'll have to watch for that. But should hold pretty steady over the next couple of days. Still expected to be a Category 3 hurricane through the middle of the week, and then should begin to weaken as it becomes a post-tropical storm. We look just beyond that. The chances for Newfoundland to get a strike, especially on the southeast coast or of the area, still very possible. About half the computer models, both the European and the GFS, you can see about half the ensembles do have a landfall in the southwestern or southeastern part of the country. So, folks in Atlantic Canada, not so much Nova Scotia now, but definitely Newfoundland should definitely keep watching this, as Larry could be a pretty impressive extratropical storm as it moves through. But again, the only direct impacts to the eastern U.S. will be large swells associated with Larry as all those swell waves begin to advance towards the east coast, and you'll have a lot of high swell waves and also dangerous rip currents through the weekend. So these will persist for several days after Larry moves out. So if you're looking going to the beach this coming weekend, you might want to be pretty careful with getting in the water. Speaking of going to the beach in unfavorable times, we turn to Invest 91L, our Caribbean tropical wave that's been festering for several days now. The wave has moved up out of the southern Caribbean and moved across the Yucatan and is now sort of sitting in the southern Gulf of Mexico. It's kind of pinned right now. We have a cold front crossing the eastern U.S. and kind of washing out down in the southeast. So you've got a lot of high pressure over the central and eastern United States. This is kind of keeping this at bay. However, this will kind of weaken as another front appear, a much stronger cold front shows up and expected to drag this across. Evening satellite presentation down here. See a trough axis probably located somewhere right in here, I would say. Some definite northeasterly winds here and some southerly winds here. There's some kind of wind change over here in this convection, but most of the convection is situated off to the east side of the trough axis, which is probably something like this. Most of your thunderstorm activity over here, and just a big mess tonight. No real organized convection. There's an upper trough kind of through here, and there's also a lot of just upper level winds. You can see all of the cloud tops uniformly being blown off to the south and east, and this is true even towards the Yucatan. All these storms, the cloud tops mostly moving away. Now the wind shear isn't as high up here; it's more out of this direction. So your upper trough looks something like this, and this heavy shear is what keeping this from organizing to any sort of coherent fashion and forming a tropical depression or a tropical storm. We saw Ida come in here last week or week before. We had a much more impressive upper environment that really allowed for the storm to develop. And in this case, we kind of have the opposite going on. There's definitely some dry air in the Gulf. You see some outflow boundaries racing out for some thunderstorms. There's definitely drier air in the vicinity of this. You see outflow boundaries moving out of here and here too, indicating that you have somewhat of a dry environment, and you also have a lot of heavy wind shear. So system not expected to develop in the short term. If we go back to the Hurricane Center's 5-day map here, and we just passed 8 o'clock, so we should have the evening update, and no changes. They're still holding that 30% chance. And Hurricane Center's sort of language with this system is that they really don't expect a lot of development before it crosses Florida. And the computer models generally do support this. The wind shear will remain pretty high over the system for the next couple days. We go into Tuesday and Wednesday on the GFS, and you still have this upper low kind of sitting over the Gulf, and it's kind of pushing that southwest wind over, or southeast wind over the Gulf, and it's just kind of keeping that wind shear factor pretty high. And there's not a whole lot of breaks in it, because we go into Wednesday into Thursday, you start having a stronger upper wind approach as the cold front actually shows up across the southeast, and this is only going to increase the wind shear. So while the front has some ability to kind of force something to try to develop on its own, it's just the shear appears to be too high for anything too special. GFS shows little to no development through tomorrow and Tuesday, but by Wednesday you can see on the GFS 850 millibar vorticity there's a little something trying to spin up along the frontal boundary on late Wednesday into Thursday, with a little bit of a little surface low or trough kind of coming ashore into Florida by Thursday night. Now, again, this Wednesday night into Thursday night stretch right here near the Big Bend is probably where the best chance for this to develop is. There's a period of time where the cold front approaches. We'll go back up to the GFS mid-level humidity, kind of show you. So Wednesday, your upper cold front back here across the, pushing into the southeast to Tennessee and Georgia and whatnot. And then you can see the front advancing now towards Florida by Thursday. And this is where our system would be. There's a period of time where it actually is kind of favorable for, that cyclogenesis to try to start in the Gulf. But then there's also going to be a period where then that front is too close and it becomes a little bit more unfavorable. So there is a chance we could see a tropical depression or something try to spin up near the coast of the Big Bend of Florida Wednesday night or Thursday night before this comes ashore. But whatever does form is likely to be weak and not much of significance. So if you see a tropical storm pop up at the last minute, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing. But again, that's about 30% calling that pretty good. And again, the Hurricane Center thinking the better chance for this to develop, which makes more sense, is as this comes off the coast of the Carolinas as we go into, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's kind of where they're expecting this to have a better chance to develop. The GFS runs this across northern Florida Thursday night into Friday, and then a little more coherent low pressure begins to spin up on Saturday. You can see, a tropical storm, it looks like on this model, offshore by Saturday afternoon. European does kind of the same thing on Thursday. You have just this weak low trying to spin up right near the coast, and then it moves across northern Florida and then ejects out, where a little bit, again, more of a coherent tropical storm tries to form up. So that's something we'll be watching for. Again, northern Florida, Big Bend, Panhandle, definitely get a lot of rain from this. Southeast Georgia as well, northern Florida, Jacksonville, Gainesville, even down towards like Palm Coast and whatnot are going to get some heavy rain on Thursday and Friday as that front moves through and this kind of tropical low moves along it. But I really don't expect anything amazing or groundbreaking in terms of impacts. But if you do see a weak, short-lived tropical depression try to form up right before landfall, it wouldn't blow my socks off. But again, it wouldn't be, super bad either. So just expect some gusty winds and definitely heavy rain late this week. And then when it moves off the coast, it's unlikely to be a major impact to the Carolinas. Excuse me. But I would definitely keep in mind that you'll have some rough seas already from Larry's swell waves. This will probably add on top of it. Not a good weekend for boating and fishing and the such offshore. All right, as we look ahead to the Noaa 2-week hazards, we look ahead to the rest of the month of the hurricane season that is this one. We see a couple activity areas. We see our western Gulf of Mexico player we talked about last night still in play, and we also have our friend off the coast of Africa. We'll have more waves coming off of Africa. Now, this coming week, we're probably not going to see a huge burst of activity. It looks like the Western Pacific is where more of the heavy activity is going to be this week. So, your MJO is sort of out of a really favorable phase right now for the Atlantic, so we're not expecting just that round-the-clock, just anything that even looks like it could spin up does. So that's a bit of a good news thing there. But we do definitely see some stuff to look on the GFS. we go beyond this week. So Larry and our friend here, so this is going into Friday. Larry's moving away. Our little low off the coast is moving off the coast of the Carolinas, where that doesn't develop. Cool, who cares? That spins up out of here. And then what we'll kind of be watching is two areas right here. And now the GFS has shifted this whole kind of monsoon trough and gyre to more of the eastern Pacific. Now, a couple days ago, all this was over towards the to the east, and it was over the Yucatan and the Western Caribbean. And the GFS spun up a hurricane moving towards Texas and Louisiana by the middle of next week, or week from today, basically. But you see on the runs today, that's all kind of shifted over here. And this is why you don't chase long-term models too much, but you look for general trends. And there's going to be a general pattern of favorable tropical development somewhere in this region next week. Now, whether it's on the Eastern Pacific side, or if it's just over Central America and it's just a bunch of rain for them, or it's on the east side and we have to watch it in the Atlantic, definitely remains to be seen. But no immediate alarms, and then we have at least 2 or 3 wave envelopes coming off of Africa that look like they need to be watched, and the overall pattern with high pressure and control, a more chaotic flow over the North Atlantic is going to shove the Atlantic high to the south, and you're going to have a lot more high pressure that's going to try to steer these storms a bit more to the south and to the west, and we may have some waves to deal with in late September as some of these come off mid-September, get across, and by late September they're in a region where they may develop, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Oh yeah, I want to show you the ensembles for our low. Euro actually picking up on them more now than GFS is. European pretty confident that at least weak low pressure develops and moves across northern Florida, but forgot to mention those. And finally, like I said, the Western Pacific is where a lot of the activity is going to be this week. We had a tropical storm actually spin up right by the Philippines yesterday. Almost no agencies caught it and really had to play catch up. And this is expected actually to be a pretty impressive typhoon as it moves off of the Philippines and gets in to the South China Sea and whatnot and moves across and towards Vietnam by later this week. So that'll be something we'll keep an eye on. And yet another tropical storm has developed in the Pacific, Western Pacific, after what is, I believe, a record quiet August, is finally starting to show a little bit of a sign of life. And we could have yet another stronger typhoon moving towards southern Taiwan by the end of the week. So we'll be keeping an eye on both of those things as well on your updates. So we'll keep you posted there. So that's probably what we got tonight for your tropical update. Again, no immediate threats to the eastern U.S. We'll just watch 91L come across Florida, spin up as it moves away, and then we got some stuff to watch next week, but nothing overly concerning in any short-term time here. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.